The famously mixed city in Israel, still simmering with tensions. Some activists say Israeli Arabs are treated as second-class citizens with limited rights. Other activists admit that while the city is tense, it's still a special, one-of-a-kind environment where Jews, Muslims, and Christians all live, work, and play side by side.
Hey, a Jewish doctor can take care of an Arab patient. An Arab doctor can take care of a Jewish patient. That's how it goes inside. Did you know that the captain of the Israeli national team, his name is Bibras Natko, and he's a Muslim? Apartheid? I didn't think so. United? Yeah. Here in Israel, it doesn't matter if you're a Christian, Jewish, Muslim, or any minority. You can dream big, and you can achieve whatever you want. Actually, you can become a parliament member, a doctor, a judge, an actor, football player, whatever you want.
And joining me now in studio is the maker of that video, Yosef Haddad. He is a community activist. He's also a combat veteran who served with the Golani Brigade, and also the founder of the organization Vouch for Each Other, bringing together veterans of different faiths. Also, Adar Weinreb, who is a social activist as well. I want to ask this question about Haifa as it exists. Yes, it's a city where Jews, Muslims, and Christians live together. But do they work? Do they play together? Do they interact together? Are they shopping at each other's stores and restaurants, or is it a segregated city?
It's a definite yes. As you know, I'm born in Haifa. I was raised in Nazareth, but I'm born in Haifa, and my family is from Haifa. And if you ask anyone in Haifa, they will tell you that in Haifa, Jews, Arab, Christians, Muslims, Druze live together, share life together, and enjoy life together. I'm not saying everything is perfect, okay? It's very important to say that. But the fact that everyone is playing together football, even in schools, some Jews and Arabs in one school together. So the question the answer for the question is definite yes. Arabs and Jews live together in Haifa and in Israel.
Adar, what do we make then of especially these scenes of violence and tension and this protests on Friday and Sunday?
So I'd say there's a bigger question at hand, and it's something that's highly contested. Is Israel an apartheid state? And I think that's really what the focus of the video was. And in order to have a healthy discussion on whether Israel's an apartheid state or not, we need to make a specific clarification. Technically speaking, Israel's not an apartheid. But people who call it an apartheid, what they see is the situation in the West Bank where Palestinians are subject to a completely different set of laws to Israelis.
I'm sorry to disturb you, but to fear, but you know, in the BDS side, they say that it's not about the West Bank; it's about the Israeli Arabs also inside. So there's a big quote on that.
I'm gonna bring it back to we often argue on semantics. I actually want to get to the issue, and I want to propose a set of solutions, perhaps, on how we could really move forward as a society.
But does it help Haifa? I mean, the city of Haifa in particular, they're the ones, these protesters say that they were brutalized by police. Many of them, as you know, they feel like second-class citizens.
Right. So in order for it to be an apartheid, there would need to be a system of institutionalized segregation which does not exist in Israel. It does exist in the West Bank. The claim is made that they're not citizens, so it's not apartheid. If you don't want to focus on the West Bank and we want to focus on Israel mainland and Haifa, we could talk about that. There is no institutional segregation, but society says something very different. There is rampant racism and fear amongst Israeli society, and that fear and racism is of Arabs, and they are affected by it.
Yosef, do you yourself and your friends, do they feel fearful of police of other religions, of Jews and Christians living in Haifa?
Listen, every country in the world, there's a percentage of racism in the United States, in Canada, in Europe, any country. But the question is whether we are looking at a part of the issue, or we're going to say like part of the truth, or we're going to say the whole truth. I give you an example. When I published this video in my official Facebook page, a person from the Arab Society came to me and wrote to me and told me, you just forgot to mention that there is 3 Jews that didn't want to be treated by an Arab doctor. I told him, but you failed to mention that millions of Jews are treated by Arab doctors, millions of Jewish doctors treating Arab patients. So what I'm trying to say here, let's take a look at the whole picture, not just part of the picture. And again, I want to say again, there is problems. Not everything is perfect, but the thing is, I'm not blaming Israel. What I'm blaming, and that's exactly why we founded the organization, Vouch for Each Other, Arivim Ze Leze, okay, in Hebrew, and you know, there is a little bit a play with the games, because Arivim Ze Leze, if you look at it in Hebrew, it says Arabs to each other, okay? So there is a play with that sentence, and we say that I'm not blaming Israel. What we are blaming actually the persons who right now in the Knesset, in the parliament, representing the Arab, who are dividing the Arab society from the Israeli society, exactly what's happening in Haifa.
I want to ask, especially in the northern Israeli cities, let's say Haifa, Akko, these famously mixed cities, you talk about, well, it's not institutional racism, it's not on the books, but it's felt in the police force. The racism exists in people's daily lives. How does that fix? How do you make it better?
So we need to start talking about this issue. Yusuf said that he wants to show the whole picture, but the whole picture involves the blatant racism in Israel. It involves talking about the fact that Arabs are much less likely to get good-paying jobs, even if they're equally qualified to Jews, or the fact that Arabs...
There's a racism also between Ashkenaz and the others. Sure. So like it's not just, what I'm trying to say is, don't focus on the Arabs, don't make the Arab society, you know, I don't want to sound like we are crying baby, because we're not. We're living good here. You know, when you saw the video, the pictures of the people that I represented, they're Arabs. A parliament member, a doctor, a player, they're all Arabs.
If I'm being frank, I mean, you're, as an Israeli citizen who's not Jewish, you face different pressures, I mean, you feel conflicted on this issue.
Listen, it's for me, I don't see any confliction, because I born in Israel. I own an Israeli ID. When I go and when I go abroad to the United States, to any other country outside of Israel, I go with the Israeli passport, and I represent Israel. But what I want to say is that the Israeli people here, you saw the protest in Haifa, okay? How many people did you saw there, okay? 100, 200, 300? You know what? Combine all of them together. You know what, you can come to 20,000, 30,000, but there's 1.6 million Arabs here who just want to live in peace and want to get up in the morning, go to work, educate their children, and do the same thing day by day.
It's much more limited. The reality is much different. They don't have the same educational or job opportunities.
Yeah, the reality is much different, as we witness every day in front of us. I could tell you a personal story. I once saw an Israeli police officer arrest an Arab, and he took him behind the police car and just punched him in the face. The chance of that happening if you arrested a Jew is probably far less.
Talk to the Ethiopian person who, you know...
what kind of solutions can...
So I want to talk about solutions. We need to first acknowledge that this problem exists. There's an issue. The way we do it is to connect with the other side. The other side being Israeli Jews and Israeli Arabs. Once you get to know someone, you fear them less. So our Israeli racism stems from fear more than it stems from anything else. If we get to know the other side, we start to break down the fear, we break down the racism, and we'll see, in time, we will have more and more Arabs getting good-paying jobs, we'll have less fear, less racism, and a more equitable society in general.
I have to jump in here because we're coming up on a commercial break, but I want to thank both our guests for participating in this discussion, an important issue on coexistence and how it works and what needs to change, and some hope for the future. Adar Yosef.